Welcome back to Access Anime. I'm Henshin Ikeda, and today I'll be doing a walkthrough and review of Blast of Tempest Episode 3. Now, if you remember from last episode, we have Muahara versus Natsumora, and it looks like Natsumora uses a weapon that's a spear, and Muahara just uses his magic, per se, that's in his talisman. Now, I was curious to see where this battle was going, and we actually get to see it in this episode, so I'm actually happy. It's exactly where we left off. But let's not forget Yoshino making a deal with Miss Yamato. Yeah, last episode, he made a deal which we don't know anything about with Miss Yamato. Now, sadly, in this episode, we did not get to see what that, what they promised. What did Shino promise Yamato that made her side with him? We don't know. Also, she doesn't really have a real role in this episode, just like brief 15 seconds, 20 seconds worth of being in the episode. But let's dive right in. I'll keep my comment and my rating at the end of this clip, so stay tuned. But let's dive right in. Now, we open this episode with Muahara basically attacking from the sky at Natsumora. And I know it's interesting throughout this whole episode, we see him on equal playing grounds, but eventually he ends up getting wounded and he has to run. But Muahara is, I'm being honest, this kid is pretty strong. He doesn't even have a real weapon, just anything laying around he takes, tries to beat the crap out of Natsumora. Now again, if you remember, Natsumora isn't the strongest in the Katsuragi clan, but he is as a mage, he's just up there on the charts. Now we also see Muahara eventually retreating because the battle didn't go as he planned, and out of nowhere we see Yoshino pop out of right next to him in the mall parking lot with looks like a Snickers bar. I was like, this guy's got perfect timing when his best friend's getting his butt whooped. And we also see Muahara talking to Hakeis on his little talisman communicator, and she's telling him, retreat. Don't attack. Retreat. Come on, this kid's not going to listen to some girl that's on an island, so obviously he ignores her and goes head on. But before that, Yoshino pulls him up on top of the building and heals him. Well, I should say, Muahara shows Yoshino how you can heal yourself with the talisman. And again, he's going through these talisman like candies. It's like he's wearing these rings, they're breaking. So he's running out of talismans. Now, we also see I guess we hear something about the Tree of Genesis, which apparently is what the Katsuragi clan gets their power from. And again, we also hear Muahara talking to Hakeis, and they talk about, well, I should say, Muahara tells Yoshino, again, Hakeis is a self-proclaimed strongest mage in the world. She isn't the strongest, self-proclaimed means you're self-proclaiming you're strong as everyone else when you're actually not. So that's kind of funny. So I guess I was right, one of the first reviews I did on this. I just thought I'd bring that up. Let's see, also, Yoshino, we see Yoshino running from the building eventually, because we see Muahara, he goes back and starts attacking Natsumora. This kid doesn't really let up, and Yoshino is trying to, he's talking to Hakeis, because now he has the communicator, because Muahara gave it to him to hold, I guess, and Muahara is, again, attacking Natsumora, while Yoshino is running like crazy trying to come up with a plan, and we hear him talking to Hakeis about, again, the Tree of Genesis, and apparently, in order to get power from the Tree of Genesis, a mage from the guild, from this clan, the Katsuragi clan, has to grant you two things. One, a voice from a clan member. Like this clan member has to give you their voice, like permission to use so-and-so magic. At the same time, you also have to have an offering. Now, this offering is like material. It could be a structure, a weapon. So this is kind of interesting. And again, Yoshino, he feels something is up. Like, why should you have to give something in order to use it or something like that? Just Yoshino knows something is up. If in order to obtain this magic, you have to give these certain things. And at the same time, Hakeis is trying to understand Yoshino, because in his voice, like when she hears him talk, she can almost tell that there's a connection between Yoshino and Muahara's sister, but she just hasn't put the pieces together yet, but she definitely knows something is up. Now, while Yoshino is running, he notices helicopters in the sky and they're blowing up bridges. That's right, the government has decided to quarantine the area yet again because of the Black Iron Syndrome, and Mrs. Yamamoto is seen on the phone getting this information from her government, who she's working for, and she doesn't know why they're doing this, and they just hang up on her. But that was her little brief, 10-second, 15-second in this episode. And again, Yoshino now knows that these helicopters are taking out tunnels, bridges, so he's formulating a plan. And again, he's trying to find Muaharo now. But we don't know if he's got a new talisman. We don't know. We just know he's trying to find his best friend now because he's got a plan. Now we're taken back to Muaharo. He's got his butt handed to him, and he's in a tunnel now. He was running. He has a handgun in his hand. He dropped his cell phone. It has blood on it. But he took looks like a policeman's gun and has run frantically all the way into a tunnel. And he looks like he set up a plan ahead of time. There's like gas on the ground, and Natsumaru doesn't look like he's that bright. He's like, okay, bullets are not going to hurt me. And he keeps walking in, and eventually the ground is caught on fire and everything explodes. And Muaharo's a little arrogant. He thinks he's won, but he hasn't. So Natsumaru's quite the fighter. Jumps right in, and it looks like he's ready to finish this kid off. But then Yoshino uses Muaharo's blood. That's how he's able to find them. So apparently these talismen aren't also able to heal someone, but you can actually trace people if they're wounded. So this kid is really bright, and he also has a plan. But I'll get to that in a second. He jumps in, saves his best friend, says, I want you to run. Run at the end of he just grabs his friend and they run to the forest. And Natsumaru's laughing. He's like, well, where are you guys going to go? And then he chases him. And before we know it, these kids hit the end of the tunnel. They're out, and helicopters are waiting at the end, shooting the tunnel up with missiles. Natsumaru did not see this coming, and he's defeated. And then you see Muaharo and Yoshino talking in the bushes, and Muaharo's like, how did you know? It's like, I don't know. It's like, I still think this kid's very arrogant, but Yoshino, he's got his head on his shoulders. He's thinking straight. Now, what's also interesting, when he was talking to Ukase, when Yoshino was talking to Ukase, he brought up something like, well, if you can do magic, Ukase, why didn't you bring back Muaharo's sister? Apparently, she can't bring back the dead, or at least she says it's against logic. And I'm like, at this point in time, who the hell cares about logic? Just bring his sister back to life. That would have solved everything. But then she's like, well, not even your best friend mentioned that. He just wanted revenge in general. So this is kind of interesting. We know a little more about Muaharo and Yoshino. Apparently Muaharo just wants revenge, where Yoshino, he wants to try to do the right thing, but he's also trying to ask the right questions, which is that's kind of cool. I like how he's doing that. He's asking the right questions. Now, we also find out Muaharo tells Yoshino, we know who the killer is. We've cut the list down on who killed his sister. Apparently, now, I find this ironic, it's someone from the Kasarabi clan. So it's like their fate is intertwined with Ukase. That's kind of interesting. Now, we're on a train. The last scene we see, other than seeing kids on an island singing a song, is Muaharo and Yoshino on a train going to we don't know where, just that Muaharo has told Yoshino about who the killer is to an extent, other than it's part of the Kasarabi clan. But that's all we know right now, and I didn't like how it was like a little pause. Like, we don't know who these kids are on an island, and then you see Ukase singing a song. That was kind of scratching the head. But, there's always going to be that in every episode. There's going to be that small part where we don't understand what's going on. But again, ending episode, they're on a train. It's Yoshino and Muaharo. And again, Natsumori has been defeated, and he has to tell Simon this. And Simon's not really pleased. And he does notice that Ukase is helping these boys. And that the Tree of Logic, not the Tree of Logic, the Tree of Genesis has sided with the princess. So that's kind of interesting. But again, that's where we're at the end of the episode. Now, final thoughts. Well, I want to see more of Natsumori. Is this guy really bad, or is he good? Somehow he feels like he's a good guy trying to fill the shoes of a bad guy, because that's where his clan's at. But that's just me. I also want to see more talismans that are going to be used by Yoshino as well as Muaharo, because there are a lot of talismans out there, and we've only seen just a handful. I also want to know, what was the deal that Yoshino made with Mrs. Yamamoto? We don't know. Also, what's the deal with Simon? Why did he take over the clan? We still don't know. But again, those are a lot of things I'd like to know. Hopefully we'll get there in the next episode, or next episodes in general. Now, moving on for my final thoughts. What did I rate this? I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5, because I liked seeing Natsumori versus Muaharu, because these two were pretty evenly matched, even though Natsumori was stronger. But it's because he was pure magic, and Muaharu is cheap talisman knockoff magic. They're both defensive, they're not really offensive. Because apparently the Kasarabi clan, they're defensive, they don't have offensive power, they can't harm stuff, they can only, like the example they used in the episode, it's like you have armor on. So what he did was he put armor around the end of his spear and used it, if that makes any sense. And so this is a clan that can't harm people, but they have defensive magic, and that just doesn't make sense. Everyone's capable of offensive anything, but no offensive magic? What clan does have offensive magic? Please direct me to them, because I'd like to see what they're capable of. But that's just me. And again, 4 out of 5 was my rating. And that ends it for my review and walkthrough of Blast of Tempest Episode 3. Now, I have one more review later on tonight, so definitely stay tuned. Before I go, I have to say it. You can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.